Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Top 5 series for Ryerson's alumni and friends. My name is Christian Mehta, and I am the AVP of Engagement at the university. Before we begin, I want to pay my respects to the Indigenous peoples, elders, and ancestors who stewarded and cared for the nature and people who lived on the land that was taken from them and where Ryerson is located today. At the university, we've made a deep and long-lasting commitment to truth, reconciliation, and decolonization, and I invite you to learn more about this work online and in person next time we can get together on campus. So we know you've got a lot on the go, and this is just a 30-minute webinar. We're going to dive in quickly, but before I introduce our presenter to you, I have a few housekeeping tips to share. In about 20 minutes, Bailey will be taking your questions. If you want to ask her something, please add your question to Zoom's Q&A area. Your cameras and mics are off, so I'll be selecting questions from there. We're also recording this session, so if you want to rewatch it or share it with your networks, please look for a message from us in your inbox over the next day or two. Okay, so on to our speaker today. Bailey Parnell is the founder and CEO of Skills Camp, a soft skills training company, and was named one of Canada's top 100 most powerful women. Bailey is a TEDx speaker with over 2 million views, an award-winning digital marketer, and a businesswoman with a talent for helping people develop the skills they need for success. Her work and expertise have been featured in Forbes, CBC, Fox, Flair magazine, and more. Bailey did her master's in communications and culture at Ryerson University with research looking into social media's impact on mental health, the results of which she shared at the World Youth Forum in Egypt and turned into her signature 5 steps towards #SafeSocial, which I'm sure we'll hear more about. Wow, Bailey, thank you so much for joining us today. It's over to you for the next few minutes.
I'm happy to be here, and I'm a proud Ryerson grad, both my undergrad in RTA 2015 and also, as you just mentioned, ComCult 2020 actually. So I had a virtual graduation, which was part-time alongside building my career in what is Skills Camp. So I'm also happy to talk to you a little bit more about that. And in a very quick and snappy 20 minutes, we're going to be talking about improving your online presence for the job search. So my name is still Bailey Parnell, and I actually started my career in broadcast journalism. Maybe no surprise to you now that you know my education. I was doing the kind of on-air stuff, and then I realized that I was good at storytelling, but I liked the tools of digital and social marketing better, and so I kind of had to pivot a little bit, or what felt like. And then I actually built up a lot of my career working at Ryerson University, funny enough, in the Department of Student Affairs. So that was very much the impetus for both Skills Camp, which is my soft skills training company, and SafeSocial, which is my now new organization that just launched a couple weeks ago, helping people understand their relationship with social media and improving your mental health before, during, and after using it. As I mentioned, working at Ryerson in student affairs very much led me to starting Skills Camp, which is that soft skills training company. We work with businesses, a lot of organizations on building skills like resilience, self-awareness, recently things like community mental health and stress management, all that kind of stuff. Now let's dive in. Quick, snappy. Again, I want to remind you that this is going to be available recorded afterwards. So if there's a slide you wish I stayed longer on, don't worry. It'll be available and sent to you, and you can always go back and look at the screenshots. Number 1, remember the top 5 ways to improve your presence online, specifically for the job search. We have a lot of recent grads recently, but in the current times, we also have a lot of people who may be looking to upskill, who may be coming back to education, who may have been laid off. So there's a lot of reasons why people might be looking for new opportunities at this specific time. So number 1, for improving your online presence for the job search is to tell me a story. Okay, wait, what? Tell me a story online. I know that seems a little bit unconnected, but throughout all of history, whether we started with oral culture or the Gutenberg press or the telegraph or internet and social media, and now where we are, the digital era, which is that our incoming grads certainly do not know life without this. Even if they didn't have it themselves, it was always around, that digital era, no matter what in history. Storytelling was always the fundamental unit of human understanding. It's how we make sense of the world, whether that story is this fire, this equation is going to do this, a brand out there being the brand of Ryerson, this is what we're up to, or us, the story of us being our personal brand. And when I search you, which about 96% of employers are going to search you when you apply for anything, remember, even if you're an entrepreneur watching right now, like me, almost every single client is like a new interview. So I'm kind of always on the job search. So it's super relevant. The story is a way of remembering things for the human brain. The story of us is essentially what becomes our personal brand. Personal branding then is essentially the intentional telling of your story, teaching me how to talk about you. So when you get to your online presence on social media, you're telling me an intentional story. In all of communications, and especially in branding, we have that story that's being told. Remember, TV, back in my TV life, social marketing, radio, whatever it is, that story that's being told, the tools on which we choose to tell it, and the community that forms as a result of people being interested in that story or that TV show on that tool, on TV, or maybe even later on Netflix, whole new audience. For us today, we're talking about the story of you, as in what you're working on, what you're interested in, what your strengths are, what you do for fun, perhaps. We're talking specifically about online, social media, online presence, web presence, that sort of thing. And our community that we're talking about in the job search is probably your job prospects, the HR people that might hire you, or entrepreneurs like me that just literally, I'm glad I'm doing this now, went through a hiring round 3 weeks ago, where I put a call out on social media and did all my recruiting there and then went through the interview process. So I can tell you very literally what I was looking for recently. Remember, when you are writing even something as simple as your bio on LinkedIn, you are telling me how to talk about you. Your resume, whatever you're sending me, your personal website with that little blurb at the top, you are teaching me how to describe you to everybody else on my team. So we're going to do that intentionally. The reason why this is important is because, especially in the job search, is because people are watching whether you are looking for them or not. So that's kind of sounds strange. But online, there's this whole tool called LinkedIn Recruiter. And LinkedIn Recruiter is explicitly designed for companies to find you to see if you'd be good for their job, whether you were looking at the company or not. I actually started my speaking career at Ryerson University, funny enough, because even though I was working in a department, I was tweeting about, or at the time tweeting about, probably now Instagram, but I was sharing every single presentation I was doing, even if that presentation was teaching about social media to a student group of 5 people. And I would share that story, teaching others how to talk about me. I'm a speaker who speaks about social media at the time. And then slowly and surely, I would do it intentionally, including hashtags, and other people would know that. And then they would say, oh, hey, well, can you come talk to my class? And it snowballed like that. It was really through just sharing what I was honestly doing on my social media that started happening. How I got my job at CBC, no joke. I got an email that said, hey, would you like to join a social media think tank? And I was like, yeah, that's cool. I always wanted to work there. RTA, it's like a rite of passage. And of course, I needed to know, because I teach this. I said, how did you find me? And it turned out that this prof I had in first semester audio, which I never took again, she had been following me on social media for 5 years at that point. And so when her friend at the CBC said, hey, I'm looking for someone who understands social, who understands this age range of 18 to 24, she just gave my name. My fiance, Hamza, he got his job at, I can't write this stuff better for this presentation. He got a job teaching as an instructor at Seneca College because through Twitter DMs, someone was starting a new program and they saw that he owned a marketing agency, that he was a speaker and whatnot. And they reached out to him through Twitter DMs and said, hey, got this new role. Do you think you might be interested? So people are looking for you. What I would say is where we tell this story, I'd say you absolutely need a LinkedIn. I actually don't even ask for resumes anymore. I ask for LinkedIn or equivalent because it already takes away a lot of the guesswork for me. I can see your organizations, I can explore, click through them, I can see references, endorsements, all in one place. I would also recommend, if you really want to step up your game, that you have a personal website. It's really easy to create for free, lots of easy templates to just fill in information on things like Wix or Square Cloud, I forget what it's called. But basically things like Wix or Squarespace, that's what it's called, lots of free templates. And on the right here, you'll see that if you're coming from a program or an industry that's very specific to things like film and television or let's say graphic design, then you'll need a Behance. If you're in film and television, you'll need an IMDb. If you want to do audio, you'll need a SoundCloud. If you're in photography, I'd recommend Instagram, but these are the more optional ones for you to decide based on your industry. And we spent a lot of time on number one because it really is the most important part, period. Defining what your story is, what I want people to say about me before I get into any of the other 5. So 2, craft your LinkedIn profile. On the left, these are the 4 parts of any brand, the 4 components of any brand, including a personal brand. Interestingly, they lend themselves quite nicely to a LinkedIn profile. Awareness, who we are, the headline, the bio, the summary. Building trust, our credentials and experience, making sure that you know that when I say I did this, you can see where I did it. Reputation, our skills and achievements. And perception, rounding out the picture and the story of us on LinkedIn with maybe things like adding personal interests or volunteer causes or something like that. So on LinkedIn, remember I'm sharing this with you, you want to treat it like a conference. You want to summarize your story quickly, like you're attending the conference. You use first person. We believe that you are writing your LinkedIn profile. So if you say Bailey does this, I'm thinking, well, you wrote that about yourself. So first person. Visually presentable. If I were going to go to a conference, I'd want to include something that if my face is the logo of my personal brand, I want to make it easily identifiable and probably the same on all networks. Remember, visual recognition. I want to provide all relevant details, so I absolutely need the bullet points and to explain what I did there. This is a hack for LinkedIn. Make sure you're describing your experience for the next job you want, not necessarily exactly in the one that you did. So for example, in my role at Ryerson, it was absolutely a part of my role to facilitate workshops and to co-develop learning with student affairs. Though the majority of my role was social marketing. In my description of that role though, I'm going to put first the facilitation piece because that's my next role. And I'm looking back at your profile for your next role. Provide all relevant details, participate maybe in like-minded groups, and if you really want to increase your search engine optimization, maybe you will publish articles or presentations. Profiles with photos are 14 times more likely to be viewed by recruiters and others. Profiles with skills are 13 times more likely to be viewed. These stats are actually directly from LinkedIn. And complete profiles, as in filling in all the sections, are 40 times more likely to be viewed. Last point there, always lead with the most important. Kind of gave you an example already. This is also in your resume, in your bio. Always lead with the most important and then go reverse chronological. Illustrate your work. Title and location are not enough. You need to, if you have a link to an event that you helped volunteer on, put the link to the website. That way I can dive deeper as the hiring person. I want to. I'm searching these candidates. Get endorsed and recommended. When I was building my LinkedIn presence, I legit just went to past colleagues, past employers and said, hey, trying to build up my LinkedIn presence, would you mind giving me a recommendation? And they did. So you can do that. You don't have to just wait for them. You can kind of prompt it along a little. And finally, LinkedIn owns all of these things, SlideShare groups, Pulse influencers, in case you really want to step up your game on there and maybe share some articles or write yourself. 3, clean up your social media feeds and SEO. SEO is search engine optimization because I still get a lot of questions about that and people afraid to ask. Clean up your social media feeds. I'm shocked that we're still seeing news stories about things that came out on someone's Twitter 10 years ago. I think we should know to go clean up our feeds and go check what you were like 10 years ago and fix that up. What we should avoid. Epic fails on social media. Inappropriate or illegal activity. Sometimes it's not always robbing a bank. It's just things like maybe there are certain drugs or other things that might still very well be illegal in certain places for certain ages. You should not be putting that online. Online harassment, maybe leaving people out, commenting. I've even seen people call, or staff of mine that we've had to have a talk about, commenting really mean things on celebrities' photos. And on Instagram, I can see it. But do I think Kylie Jenner is reading your comment? No, this is just reflecting on you. Releasing confidential information, that maybe you're in a group that's supposed to be private and you want to share that you're part of it, well, you need to consider the confidentiality of the people in the group. That's what that means. Lies or misrepresentation. If you want to work for PETA, I shouldn't find you in fur. Rants about colleagues in the workplace. I'll show you an example coming up. And non-inclusive behavior is probably the one we're seeing most often, and perhaps even always important, even more important right now, which is, are you speaking in a way that welcomes everyone in? And I need to think about this if I'm hiring at Skills Camp, because we work with every kind of person. So go back, look at your feeds. Little game. Should this be on social media? I've really seen all this, by the way. Is it bad that I called in sick for work so that I can watch Game of Thrones? Hashtag sick day, hashtag don't tell my boss. No, this should never be on social media, but especially in the job search. I do not want to see you in the job search talking about your current job this way. So that is a solid no. Complaining about colleagues. My senior resident is the worst. She keeps interrupting me on rounds and she has no idea what she's doing. Gossip, hate the way you use your social media. I'm thinking, especially in hiring, if you're talking about your current colleagues that way, not interested, that's a solid no. Someone with their friends. Dear Mr. Trump, glad you didn't build that wall just yet. Happy Mexican St. Patty's Day from our honorary amigos to yours, suggesting that she wants the wall built, suggesting a whole bunch of other inappropriate things. I can't trust your judgment. Not only do I disagree with you, but I also can't trust your judgment online. So that's also a solid no, but that does not mean that you can't share your authentic self. I use my own example of me drinking with my sisters in Dublin, because guess what? I like alcohol, and that's okay. That's totally fine to be yourself. You just, when you post, need to think, is this appropriate? Who's going to see it? I always assume everything is going to be seen by a client. I always assume that. And am I comfortable with potential consequences? So this, I would say, is a yes. And finally, SEO, search engine optimization, I reminded you of that. There's a lot full careers that go into this, but certain little small things we can do is search ourselves. Go search yourself on incognito mode, because I am definitely doing that in the job search. Look at your top links. I just used me as an example. Make sure, go on a page 2, because I am for candidates. Go into your images, double check that you don't have some high school something or other you don't want there back from 5 years ago. Go even into your videos, because you never know. So go search yourself and learn what story is already out there about you. 4, remember differences in online communication. In online communication, whether it's social, whether it's reaching out on LinkedIn to somebody to have a coffee with them, or via email, being concise is even more important here, because assume everybody is getting 300 emails a day. Assume that their attention span is designed for going through social rather quickly, and get to the point with maybe a little bit of hope you're doing well. Sarcasm and dry humor do not translate as well over text, because you don't have those nonverbal aids. So if I say, it was a great meeting, the sarcasm is actually what's telling you that it was a horrible meeting. That would not translate well online. There is a paper trail, kind of goes in with number 4, which is that it's more public in nature. It's public in nature, and there's a paper trail, which means you should be considering that everything you post, even that private DM to a friend, because they sometimes end up being public in all these stories, is going to be made public. So assume that. And finally, number 5, you want to go 2.0. You want to really step up your game with the online presence. You build thought leadership with good content. You go and you read. You learn the field. You learn the kind of job that you want. You read what the leaders are saying. You be aware of the moves being made in your industry. You get to know your intended audience. What are they sharing? In these kinds of companies, what's being talked about right now? You learn the field, and then you play the field. That's when you start, once you start consuming online, you can start actually being a content creator online. That's just, remember, this is 2.0. This is developing thought leadership, writing on things like LinkedIn, which increases your station on LinkedIn Recruiter, speaking, sharing, maybe giving a quick video, because we can all do this on our phone now, advertising yourself, sharing with people your wins and what you do. And a great one to build your brand and your presence online is to share other people's content. Sounds kind of counterintuitive, but if I'm sharing someone's content and I'm leaving a nice comment about what they wrote and they're from an organization, they're probably going to look on me even more fondly because I'm giving them the credit while also matching what they're writing with my story. All content should either be useful, good content should be useful, amusing, informational, inspirational, or critical. All content should be one of these things, and your best performing pieces of content will likely be all 5. There we go, top 5. Tell me a story, craft your LinkedIn profile, clean up your SEO, search yourself in your social feeds, go back far, especially if you want a public personality. Remember the differences in online communication, and 2.0, step up your game by building thought leadership with good content. Thank you very much. Quick, snappy, top 5 ways to improve your presence online. My name is Bailey Parnell.
Thank you so much, Bailey. That was incredible. So many notes I've taken here. Really appreciate your insights and perspective. We have a few questions in the Q&A and other ones here as well. So I just want to dive in. This one is from an anonymous attendee. How can you have something removed online about you if you don't have access to it?
So let's say, for example, if you don't have access to it, sometimes you can straight up just ask the provider. So if it's social, you can untag yourself, you can do all that stuff, right? If it's your high school newspaper and they've shared a photo of you, which again, I've usually in a live session will do live searches with the people in the audience. And we've seen that kind of stuff. You can ask them to take it down. You definitely have that right. If they're going to decline, then, and it's something that's really important to you, usually they don't decline. They might even remove your name, which will help remove you from the search instead of removing the full photo, let's just say. And, or if it's something that you really cannot get in connection with, then you need to kind of boost up other things in your SEO. Then it's even more important that you do get that personal website, do start adding some content to LinkedIn, even if you do it for a short bit, just so that other things are appearing before that.
That's great. What about for someone who has very minimal social media presence? This question is from Jenna Smith about on Facebook and LinkedIn. What can someone like Jenna do to beef up their digital footprint?
Yeah, not everybody wants to be sharing on Instagram stories every day. It's just not what we want to do. I'd say you don't, that's why those kinds of feeds were on the right side of that screen. If you remember where I said where to tell your story, you don't have to have a Snapchat account. You don't have to have an Instagram account. However, if you want to be a fashion blogger, you probably do need an Instagram account these days. So it's, if one matters what industry you want to be in, and there are just certain things that come with the territory these days. That doesn't mean that it needs to be personal though. It might mean that it's only professional and you only share pictures of your work, let's just say. If you want no social media, I'd still recommend you have a LinkedIn. And the thing with LinkedIn though is that even if you don't want to be constantly updating or engaging, you don't have to be. At least it's something where we don't change jobs that often. You can kind of build it and leave it there. And that way, at least you're telling me something. I really want to get this out there and I want y'all to listen if you're still here. If I search you and I find nothing, that's still telling me something. If I search you and I find nothing, it's still telling me something about you. The other caveat or the other potential risk of that is that because you're not teaching me how to talk about you, I'm making up my own version of it. So am I describing your last role in the best way? Because maybe it was my last role, my formal title, or at Ryerson, I should say, my formal title was something like, I don't even remember, digital community something or other. Did it include anything about facilitation? No. So I need to teach people how to talk about me.
Right. Just to clarify on that one, do you recommend that we focus all of our energies on LinkedIn, or Are there other platforms that, you know, that kind of show and tell your work experience and interests that we might also want to consider?
Yeah, absolutely. There is you so I mentioned wix.com that has free templates for if you want to do like just a resume website. That's it maybe. Maybe it just has your bio. Another one that we've used with students previously is called about.me. And I wonder if I can even find my profile and share it with you in chat after. About.me very simply has your photo, a bio, and all your links in one place if you have
Okay.
any links. So maybe you just have a blog. So that way I'm at least finding something about you. And
Right.
also, if you really want to, you can just say, just type into Google free resume website. It'll 100% be there.
Right. That's true. Um, on that note, with regards to the personal website, you know, let's say that website is, you know, tells a lot about your professional experiences. To what extent would a website also need to, or should it have, you know, your personal details, your personal life in there?
hmm So if I were to be doing a website, this really depends. This is totally your choice, I think. I wouldn't say that there's a best practice here unless you want to be a blogger. Like if you're trying to be a blogger and your story is everything, then personal elements will help you. Personal elements, I'm be totally honest with you. I can have all these career successes on whatever, can graduate, can do all this jazz on Instagram. And when I share a picture of my fiance, it's good. It does the best. And I think it just does. Kids, they'll do the best. So I think why though is I think that it's just the personal parts of us are the parts people can relate to. No one's going to have the same job as me, but they understand what it's like to maybe be in love, to maybe get married, to have kids, to go out with your family. And I feel like if you're scared of posting that stuff, I wouldn't be. I really think that you can have both your personal and professional selves. If it's a privacy thing for you, of course, that's your decision. But if it's not, then I definitely encourage you to share a picture of you and your fam if you want to.
This question actually is from Cassandra. Hey, Bailey, you mentioned asking someone for coffee or meeting through LinkedIn. Has anyone ever reached out to you to do this that you've never met before or previously known? And how do you trust
All
that
the
person?
time.
That's
Oh,
kind of part of
100%.
my intro there.
Multiple times a week. Skills Camp's actually done an entire workshop on informational interviewing and how to ask for them and an email template. But when I respond, when I say yes to people, one, my email is made public. So if they find it and come through my email, I don't mind. It's out there for a reason. But usually the way you'll probably be doing it is LinkedIn. If I'm if they're reaching out to me, it needs to be personal. I do not want to get the copy and paste. I am getting a lot of emails a day and I am getting a lot of requests. So I also, from my own self, because I'm still doing this too, I'm assuming everybody's getting 300 messages a day. I'm
Right.
assuming everybody has 300 emails a day. And I just operate from that standpoint, which means I need to make this personal, efficient, like concise, and exactly what I'm asking for because it's not on me. You're asking me. I'm not going to prompt you with where do you want to do this? When do you want to do this? Like to me, I'm like, I don't have time for this. So I'm kind of in that way, I assume people who I'm asking are doing me a favor and I assume I'm doing them a favor. So I make it as easy as possible for them to say yes. I say, perhaps, even just 15, half an hour, maybe these times will work. If not, please send me some alternative or Calendly link or something like that. Why I'm asking you, I saw that you worked here, here, and here. Here's my goals right now, and I would really appreciate any advice. Of course, check for spelling and grammar. You would not believe how many times people get that wrong. But if
Right.
you're reaching out on LinkedIn, the first thing I do when people reach out to me is I click their LinkedIn.
Right.
So it would be even better for yourself if you had that developed before you reach out.
Yeah, that's great. Well, listen, we have so many more questions in the Q&A. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. But for all of you that participated in this webinar, thank you so much for taking the time. As I mentioned earlier, we will send this presentation and several links out to you with a video recording as well. So stay tuned for that and look out for those things in your inbox. Bailey, thank you so much for being here today with us. Really appreciate you lending your expertise, and wow, we're so lucky that you're a Ryerson alum. Thank you for all you're doing for your alma mater and for your fellow alumni.
I shared all of my links and contact information in the chat.
Lovely, great. Thank you again, and everybody have a great afternoon. We'll see you at the next webinar. Bye
Yeah.
for now.